Hi friends, this is Brent Harris, Productivity Coach. And what I do is I guide people into sustainable, high-level productivity. I do that on a one-on-one basis with my clients, and that is the main purpose behind all of these videos whenever I make a video and post it here on YouTube. And so in this video, I'm really excited to get to some topic matter that I've been turning over for months and months and months. I put out a video a little while ago that was titled something along the lines of Reclaim Self-Control Through Depolarization. And I did my absolute best to discuss this principle, but it's a very deep principle and it's really profound. And I found it really difficult to articulate properly. I just kept kind of getting caught up in a lot of different things. And it took me up until now to figure out how to properly lay it out in a way that's simple and makes sense. I've actually spent a lot of time making plans to make videos where I'd write up notes and just try to organize it all. And I did my best, but I kept getting lost in the note taking because I'd have to pull in this element and that element and how do these things fit together? And so then I had to sit on it some more. And then just recently I started diving into the work of this thinker that I've been really admiring lately. His name is Samo Burja, if I'm pronouncing it right, B-U-R-J-A. And he's been offering a lot of work on this subject of live players. And the idea behind a live player being somebody who operates their life off script, somebody who does not go the way that all of us go. They create their own path and they act, and this is now my words, not his anymore, but they act radically upon their purpose and upon their highest ideals, their highest vision for themselves, for their lives, and also for the life of the world in some cases as well. For the highest vision and ideal for humanity or for the world or for the ecosystem or for the economy or whatever it is. And so these are people that often rise into really high rank. These are people who are unpredictable. These are people who have mixed reviews, who are loved and hated. And these are very, very effective people and people that go down in history. So you have, players like Elon Musk would be a popular one. And he would also say very controversially, Putin is a live player. Not in the sense that being a live player is somebody who's automatically good and does well and is loved by everybody, but somebody who is very iconoclast, somebody who really breaks away from the mold and they really take control back into their own lives. They really move ahead with intense congruence. And that congruence element is something that I want to get into this discussion when we talk about polarity and depolarization. So ultimately, where this conversation goes is not even necessarily stopping at the subject of actualization where I'm self-actualized, I'm manifesting my dreams, I open my bed and breakfast or my bakery or whatever. But there's this sort of core element of what dreams did you have when you were a toddler? What power did you feel in yourself all the way back at the very, very beginning when you didn't know that anything was impossible and you felt just an intense sense of possibility, on the highest and highest tier level. Because I think the truth of the matter is that when you consider live players, people who play at the highest stages and at the greatest extent of their ability, and people who really go all out, they just leave it all on the court and they really go for it. These are people who do not operate from a sense of limitation. I think categorically, these are people who have left limitation behind. To return to the Elon Musk example, he doesn't feel limited by interplanetary travel. He does, he really sees it as a distinct possibility. And it's that the holding of that knowing and the holding of that vision and insisting on that possibility and insisting on his ability to make it happen is what has allowed him to move in that direction. Now, there would be an argument saying, well, no, it's his superior talent and ability and genius that's allowed him to do it. And that's true. And it's true that it's not like we can just say anybody can do this kind of thing, interplanetary travel or what Putin has done. Or I'd need another example of a live player. Unfortunately, I don't have one right now. But in any of these examples of a live player, it's best to look up his work. There is an absolute prerequisite to becoming a live player is to operate from a sense of limitlessness, of making the impossible possible. And in order to manifest the impossible, a lot of congruence is required. So to that end, I want to talk about that congruence and how to manifest that congruence in ourselves, how to move congruently. And I'm going to do that by discussing with you this concept of polarization, polarity, polarization, and depolarization. So again, I've been turning this over a lot, and I'm really, really, really excited about sharing this with you. And so I have a plan on how I'm going to offer it here. So now, before I get into it, I would like to ask a favor. If you have been receiving benefit from these videos, if you've been receiving benefit from my work, would you please click like? Would you please like the video? Would you please consider subscribing, consider commenting, asking questions, engaging, and helping me spread this work, help me get this to more people. Like, yes, on one hand, it's for my own success. Like, I do want to succeed. I do want this channel to succeed. That's there. But that is a secondary priority to my primary priority, which is to serve humanity into actualization, so that all of us can manifest our gifts to step into this sustainable high-level productivity that I'm talking about all the time, and to manifest it in a way that is uniquely for all of us in order to be our best selves for the world, in order to do good to the world. So that's what all this is pointing towards. And if you feel like that's a worthwhile outcome, would you please hit like? Would you please help support the channel? I'd be grateful. And refer people to it. Share this video, share this information, point people to it. That'd be great. So thank you. So let us get into polarization and polarity. So I'm going to layer up the terms. So what it means to be polarized is regarding a particular subject. So whatever it is that you're polarized about, is to have a sense of right and wrong about it, is to have a sense of good and bad about it. And even more importantly, to have a sense of acceptability and unacceptability about it. And so I'll explain exactly what I mean, because it's not exactly what it sounds like, but I'll explain. So please keep a really nice open mind as I go through this. So when somebody wants to lose weight, and maybe they've been struggling with losing weight for a very, very long time, they are often unable to fully get all the way. They're unable to step all the way into their success because they're polarized by having weight and not having weight. In the sense that they really, really, really want to lose weight. And so there's a very, very strong movement into an outcome that would be acceptable, an outcome that would be good, an outcome that would be preferable. And at the same time, they find that there is a certain form of gravity that is pulling them in the direction that they don't want to go in, which is being overweight, which is being obese. And that is an outcome that is unacceptable. It is not okay. It is bad, and it must be avoided. And so from a polarized perspective, we operate from what we could call a heaven and hell context, where to lose weight is heaven. It's like, I can finally be slim, I can finally be attractive, I can finally get love, I can receive the right attention, I can get into a relationship. It would just be the best. It would just make me so happy. I would just finally feel good about myself. So that's the heaven, that is the promise of reaching the positive end of that polarity. And consequently, the drama of losing weight is fighting a gravitational pull into overweightedness, where there's a sense of, if I were to stop trying, if I were to not apply any effort, then I would just do whatever I want. I would consume however I'd want, and I would just end up getting overweight, and I'd get fat and fat and fat, and I would become even less and less attractive, and I would never find anybody that loves me, and I would die alone and bitter and resentful, and there'd be no coming back from that, and it would just be my hell. So whenever there's a polarization here, there's always a heaven and hell. And there's always a sense of finality about it as well. There's always a sense of where I will end up. I'm going to end up in this situation where once I get to that point, and pay attention to these words, once I get to that point, then it'll be downhill. Then I'll be used to the habit of being slim, and I won't have to try anymore, and it'll be natural, and it'll just be like, rolling downhill into goodness and love and sunshine and rainbows from there. and if I don't, and if I give up, and if I just really opened up and relaxed my effort, then I would end up in my hell, and I would end up there, and there would be no coming back. It would just be like I would be in this pit that's just so deep that I couldn't possibly get out of it. And so there's always a struggle from a polarized mindset that we might end up in a pit forever and ever. And so there's that fear there as well, and there's no coming back, and I missed my opportunity for good. So that is what is at stake. And so therefore, whenever we're polarized about something, whether it's losing weight, whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whether it's a school project, whether it's a conversation with somebody that, it really needs to go well and not go well, whether it's like trying to get a home in a particular place or trying to get to a certain level of wealth, or if it's like a little bit more societal, like, my group or my culture needs to arrive at this and this point, or like a relationship between, left-wing politics versus right, or vice versa, whatever it is. There's a sense of absolute importance, in the sense that if the wrong outcome happens, it would just be the worst. Like, it would just be beyond bad. It would just be not good. It's like it will never ever be good. And consequently, if we get there, if we get the achievement that we want, then it will be like the most important thing. So that is what it means to be polarized by something. And I'll ground this in a few more examples. I'm actually going to give a few examples from my life to make this a little bit more real for you. And I believe you'll see what I mean. Like, as I put all these pieces on the table, just listen, just relax, just let me put them all in, and the picture will start to emerge. And I promise, when you see this picture, nothing will ever be the same again. You'll be able to cognize all of like self-control, relationship with the self, habit setting, success and failure. You'll see it all from this perspective of polarization, and there's so much opportunity that will open up for you. Just like the way forward will be better. So follow me on this, really do. Okay, and so by contrast, so that was all a discussion of polarity, polarization, good, bad, right, wrong, acceptable, unacceptable, heaven, hell. So like, just, pay attention. So there's poles. So the depolarized perspective, by contrast, is to still be intelligent and to still have your sense of preference, but instead of like the must not, never ever, like these absolute kind of feelings and emotions, you're left with choice, and it's just choice. So an example would be, suppose you're going to an ice cream shop and you want some ice cream, and you see vanilla and you see chocolate, and you prefer chocolate like I do. You just like want chocolate. So there would be no need to be polarized about chocolate. For example, it's not like it would be like terrible if you ended up with vanilla. Or it's not like you have to not get vanilla. I must avoid getting vanilla. I'm afraid of ending up with vanilla. I'm just so afraid that I'm going to get vanilla by accident, and it would just be so terrible, right? It's not like that at all. There's no sense of polarized, emotional, jittery energy about it. Instead, it's like, oh, I see. Here are two options. Here are two ways that this event could unfold. And I've made my choice. I choose chocolate, and you go with chocolate. And vanilla doesn't play anything into it at all. It's just the whole thing, the stakes are very low. It's not symbolic. The symbolism is very low. There's not a whole lot of heavy significance. It's just simply, this is what I choose. That's the depolarized framework. And ultimately what I'm saying as I communicate this to you is that if you're having cyclical, repetitive, frustrating, endless, recurring trouble with some area of your life, then it's very likely due to being polarized about that thing with an overly heavy sense of right and wrong about it. And if you were able to put it to rest, then you would be able to collapse the polarity, and then just simply make your choice and have it be like non-dramatic, just easy, just a door that you walk through. So our whole conversation here is about recognizing polarity and collapsing polarity so that we can reclaim our wherewithal to simply choose which door we want to walk through and walk through it, and then just get on to the next thing. In general, a challenge that a lot of us run into when we're on r/get disciplined, r/productivity, whenever we read self-help books, is that we create such a drama around triumphing over ourself, triumphing over our baser instincts. So we might say, like, you know, you have to fight yourself every day. You have to fight against yourself. Or like, you know, this term of the resistance, you know, from Stephen Pressfield's, you know, the war of art. It's like always like, you know, it's always a war against yourself, and you have to win that war every day. And then if you get the prize at the end, if you like lose weight or make money or your business succeeds or whatever it is, and you succeeded in spite of yourself, like that's supposed to be like the big Spartan victory. Like that's supposed to be like the big achievement that like everybody else in the crowd looks at you and they're like, whoa, that was amazing. Like, holy shit, I'm so impressed. Well, it's like, that's one way of going about it. That's the polarized way of going about success. The depolarized way about success is very unceremonious. It's really strange. It's just natural. It's just walking through the door. Another example would be if you take Tim Ferriss's success, starting with the 4-hour work week and his like businesses before then, you'll notice that there was ups and downs, there was failure and some disappointment or whatever, but I personally don't get the sense that he overcame like great odds. There's not a whole lot of self-discipline, you know, like cold showers every morning. It's more like he just like tried some things and then something worked and then he just made his way into success. Tim Ferriss is a live player. There we go. That is another example of a live player. Somebody who just goes, it's like, you strangely don't make a big deal out of the highest level of success, and then paradoxically, you can just move toward it. You just find the way forward and move through. There's a sense for those who are, the opposite term is dead players. From a dead player perspective, you look at the very top of a hierarchy, whether it's like a book list, you know, like the top New York bestsellers, or, you know, if you're a musician, the top charts or the Grammy winners or whatever, like you just, the highest prize of whatever your field is. Like we look at that, and because we see, oh, this is the top of that hierarchy, we distance ourselves from it. We go, oh my God, how am I supposed to get all the way over there? And live players don't see that. Let's just let this pass for a second. Hold on. She did this in my last video. It's my cat. She's like scratching her post. There we go. Nice. Okay, we got through that together. Thank you for understanding. So yeah, so live players don't operate from this sense of like there's being a distance to the outcome that they want. It's just like, it's almost like they don't see the distance, or they don't believe in the distance, and so they move with congruence through it. A lack of congruence is when we put time in between, time and space and difficulty in between that outcome and where we are now. Isn't that interesting? And we're just getting started. All right, so we've laid out polarization, we've laid out depolarization. So I want to tell a story of my own, a story from my own personal history. So I used to smoke cigarettes, and I smoked enough that I was not a non-smoker, but never enough that I was an actual smoker. So we'd be looking at, like an average of 30 a month, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. If I'm drinking, it gets higher. If I'm not drinking, it gets lower. I'd go through periods of quitting, you know, like a month or a couple months at a time, and then I'd stop. But it was enough. It would amount to like something like, you know, maybe 4 packs a year, something like that. Maybe 5 packs a year, maybe 3 packs a year. So I just want to give you kind of a ballpark. So it's not full on, but it's not nothing. And that continued for about 15 years, 15, 16, 17 years. So it's like it went on for quite a while. So it went on for quite a few years. And I tried stopping multiple times, and I was not able to stop. So like I would go for a month or something, and then we get up to a certain point, maybe 2 months, 3 months was my record, and like 100 days, and I get to the end, and then like I just collapse, and I go back to smoking, and I really disliked it, and I really wanted to stop, but I couldn't get myself to stop, and so it was a lot of trouble, and so then I had this idea for how I wanted to try to stop quitting. And what I wanted to do is this. So my wife left for a travel trip. This was like in 2019, November of 2019, and she went to Cuba, and I was like, okay, I'm going to, like, I felt this strong urge to smoke. I'm just going to smoke, but I'm going to do it a little bit different this time, where I'm going to smoke congruently. I'm going to smoke on purpose. Because up until now, what would happen is that I would smoke and there would be a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of back and forth thing going on. And what I mean by that is there's like, I'm being like a mature, responsible adult element of myself, and then I'm being a childish instant gratification element of myself. So up until this November, whenever I go drinking, for example, I'd get drunk. And then when I'm drunk, like, my adult faculty is no longer online. And so then I move into instant gratification, smoke cigarettes. And then the following morning I'd wake up, I'd sober up, and then I'd be disappointed in myself. I'd switch into the adult mode and be like, oh man, I have to stop smoking. And then I'd, put in another effort to start quitting again. And then that would go until I go into like the childish mode where I let it happen again. So you can see there's this back and forth of these two different aspects of myself, these two different poles of myself. So in this November, this is different because I said I'm going to smoke on purpose. And what that means is, on one hand, I'm going to give it to myself totally as a gift from an instant gratification perspective. But at the same time, I'm going to be there as the adult, and I'm not going to turn on myself, and I'm not going to guilt trip myself. I'm not going to shame myself. And I'm not even going to justify it. I'm not going to talk about why this is a good idea, or why I should do this, or why it's acceptable. I'm not going to rationalize or explain it to myself. I'm going to bypass all of that, and I'm just going to smoke the cigarettes, and that's it. So I went for it. So I got a pack, right? And so I was able to get through 4 that day, 4 cigarettes, going through them. It was nice, it was good, whatever, it was cool. I kind of like a little bit of freedom. Next day came around, I smoked 4. Next day after that, I got down to 3. And then the 4th day, I was able to get through 1, and then I had like 1 more, and I was like, it was like in my hand, and I was smoking it, and it started to get so bad that I couldn't bring myself to smoke anymore, despite trying to smoke. I was putting in effort to smoke as much as I could. It was very interesting. And what happened was the whole drama of like, I want to, but I can't. I want to, but I can't. Where it's like, the adult says I can't, and the child says I want to. And there's like this built up tension, this built up polarized energy. All that energy dissolved through the congruence. And I was left with just wrapping my lips around this filthy tar stick. The romance was gone. The fun was gone. It's sort of similar. It's sort of similar to like, when you're in a high school dance, right? And like, you're a high school kid, you're dancing. It's like, oh, this is so cool. I'm at a dance party. And then like your dad comes in and he's like, hi there, son, how's it going? And you're like, Dad, you're ruining it, right? Like that's like when the adult comes into the child's world, or when the child goes into the adult's world, there's a ruining of the game. There's a ruining of the party. And that's what happened with smoking. So it's like, so there's no party anymore. It's just filthy fucking shitty shit. So I stopped and I put it down, and I couldn't smoke anymore. And what's interesting is that there's no willpower involved. It's like the door is as open now as it ever was. I can go right to the store and smoke. I'm not promising I'll never smoke ever again. I'm not giving up smoking because there's nothing to give up. So that's really interesting. So that's depolarization in action. So now, okay, like please don't misunderstand. Here's my warning. Don't necessarily do what I did. Like, go with your own discretion at this. Like, don't just like go nuts with something. Because like, there's a great chance that I'm not communicating this properly. There's a fantastic chance that you will mishear and misunderstand what I'm saying and do this incorrectly. So I give you the story only as an illustration of my own life and to illustrate the concept of depolarization. If you want to try this on something low key to start with so that you understand. Ideally, a fitness habit or something really low key. So that's my caveat. So this is just a story. Good. So that's it. Now, example, how are we for time? Holy shit, we're running long. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a part 2 later, I guess. I'm gonna have to do part 2 later. Yeah, I'm gonna do part 2 later. So I'm gonna come back with another video. I'm gonna do a part 2 on this a little bit later. And we're gonna get a little bit more into the practice of it. But for now, I just wanted to lay out the theory of polarization, depolarization, congruence with all these different elements on the table. So thank you for watching, and sign up for my email list, get my free online course, my free video course on sustainable high-level productivity. You'll learn a lot from it. It's amazing. If you want one-on-one coaching with me, get a $5 session. The links for all of that are below. And please hit like on this video. Thank you.